about to meet the co-hosts for this evening's program. Both are past recipients of this distinguished award, and if you haven't met them or any of our recipients, please take the time to do so tonight. This is a personal story of mine, a personal situation that changed my life personally, and I want to introduce our co-host for the evening, Mr. Murray Gross. He and Mr. Gross, kindly, sir. Now, Murray hired me in 1992 and the Admirals Club, I believe it was, at LaGuardia Airport. And didn't know who he was, except for that he was the president of this cabinet refacing company called Facelifters, and it said Sears on the lead, so I was very interested. And they gave me a magazine, and they said, this is the guy you're gonna meet, and he was on the cover. And that's when we first met. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Murray entered the home improvement business as a salesman shortly after leaving the University of Pittsburgh. In 1963, he was given the opportunity to co-found a remodeling division for a chain of lumber yards in the Pittsburgh area. That new company had the intriguing name of Busy Beaver, and they specialized in kitchen remodeling. Later, they entered the specialty end of the business, selling replacement windows and doors. The company was acquired in 1972 by Cyclops Steel Corporation, which at that time was number 240 on the Fortune 500 list of corporations in the United States. Murray moved on to manage at separate times two very large multi-branch home improvement companies. 20 years later, he became founder, chief executive officer, and chairman of U.S. Home Systems, which became a public corporation. It was the largest cabinet refacing company in the United States with revenues of nearly $200 million when the company was acquired in 2012 by the Home Depot. Murray Gross was a founding member of HEMS, now the oldest since 1986, continuing management group of large successful home improvement companies. He is a past recipient of the Legends of the Home Improvement Industry Award. And again, please welcome Mr. Murray Gross.
I'll bring up
Kid can't follow directions.
I'll bring up the cohort. I'm glad to hear I'm still a kid. First of all, it's a real privilege getting to introduce David Moore. He has a BA in economics, magna cum laude, Amherst, an MBA from Harvard. And he grew up in a third-generation family member of a business that's 54 years old. This company worked in the New York metropolitan area market, and it was called Garden State Brickface. His father was the chief operating officer, his uncle was the president, his grandfather was the founder. So he comes out of school with an MBA, and the business had suffered some setbacks. So the grandfather, they have a leveraged buyout. Here he is. David is elected to run the company, and he effects a turnaround. The young kid takes over. So the Maverick comes to town. After a few years, the company was solvent, operating profitably. And then today, David is the chairman, CEO of Moore Holdings. This invests in a variety of privately held companies. He's a partner in Sonostar Ventures. They invest in startups and public securities. He's the chairman and majority owner of 7 replacement window businesses that cover New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Toronto. He is affiliated with the Anderson Window Corporation. He's the former chairman of U.S. Home Systems, been a member of HIMSS for 25 years, and he's a part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. I guess it wasn't a big deal. Anyway, this man is a philanthropist, and he's like a member of our family. Legend, past legend, please, David Moore.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here for both Murray and I. I would say we all know that the legend status should have a lowercase L on it. The only person who has the capital L on it is David Yoho Sr. For all of us, he is the real legend here. So we're just acolytes and imposters around Dave Yoho, and it's great to see everybody. So many friends, so many people. We've all learned from each other in various circumstances over the decades, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much, Murray.
David, how are you? Before I introduce our first recipient, I thought I'd just give you a little story. When Dave called and asked would I co-host this event, I said, why me? And he says, why not? You were in our first group of legends in 2000. I said, well, I'm not a legend anymore. By this time, I'm just a myth. So anyhow, just talking about looking back, when they introduced me, they said or at least I inferred from that I started in 1963. I actually started this business March 1st, 1960, which was 58 years ago. So, been around it for a long time, seen a lot of changes. And when I think back about it, to say you were in the home improvement business was very quietly. What do you do? I'm in the home improvement business. You didn't want anyone to know. I had a friend that we went on my first junket to Las Vegas. And when we got there, the other guys on the plane, we were like a group in the hotel, and we were standing around the bar that night, and a guy by the name I could still remember, Jim Veltri was his name. He was in the window cleaning business. And he said to my friend, I won't mention his name because he's gone and no one here would know him, but it said, Harvey, what do you do? And he says, I'm in light construction. And I never forgot that. That's a long, long time ago. So my real entrepreneurial career started in 1963 at Busy Beaver. And I had the good fortune of, in 1964, meeting the true legend, Dave Yoho, at a hotel in New York. I was always curious about how could a 22-year-old kid walk into someone's house he had never met, they had never met, and you could walk out with a contract and a check for $2,000 or $3,000 in your hand. That was fascinating to me, and I always wondered about it. And I see some of you shaking your head and thinking, yeah, I remember that. And it was fascination. And so when I met Dave is when I really, I think, became a student of sales. And many of you have often heard him joke about the number of classes I attended at his management school. And 2 weeks ago, my wife has been on my back to clean all my crap up because I'm kind of a hoarder. And I came across, Dave, and these are probably the only ones that exist in the world, certificates from the Surface Shield Institute, dated March 29, 1973. So I wanted to show you these because I'm sure they're the only ones around like that. So now getting on with the program, because I'm past my 2 minutes. Our first award recipient of the evening is Ed Augustine, founder and CEO of Paramount Builders, located in Virginia. What brings this legend to this honor? Here is how Ed explains it. My dad was an aluminum siding salesman, selling DuPont Tedlar siding. I went on leads as a young man with my dad. I was very proud of him. I felt the success and experienced some of the pain of an in-the-home salesperson. I believe that gave me the drive and desire to build a great place for people to work. I joined the business at 16, working in Vinyl Grain Industries warehouse 7 to 12 each day and 5 to 9 each night in the call center in Orlando, Florida. I can still remember and recite the script. I ran my first lead at age 18. On October 20, 1983, Mabel Coleman was my very first customer. After relocating to Virginia, I obtained my first sales manager's position with a large company. At 23, I became their national training manager. And in October of 1991, at the age of 27, I opened Paramount Builders, Inc. After nearly 27 years in business, we've successfully grown Paramount Builders to include 8 offices located throughout the East Coast, from Maryland to Florida, specializing in replacement windows, vinyl siding, trim packages, replacement entry doors, roofing, and gutter systems. Over the years, Paramount Builders has been on the cover of Qualified Remodeler magazine, became an all-site preservation dealer of the decade twice. Our company won 2 GAF President's Award, and we are members of Provia Platinum Club. Our company has been voted one of Virginia's best places to work. We employ 365 people. Ed stresses the pride he has in being loyal to his suppliers. The company has been with the same manufacturers and carried the same product lines since their doors opened. They believe in hiring new, untrained salespeople, even those without sales experience. And that's also true of their marketers. He said, quote, "We do not hire other home improvement companies' personnel. We believe in blooming where we are planted by offering excellent training and constant retraining. We call this continuing education." We have a future winners program that I personally conduct for 4 hours each week for both sales and marketing personnel. It also stresses that Paramount is a faith-based company. They pray before all meetings and employ a full-time chaplain. Ed is a member of the Virginia chapter of YPO, the Young Presidents Organization, serves on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club, and for 3 years was head coach for the girls softball team at Greenbrier Christian Academy. Ed's award will be presented by legend Jim Felton.
Here. Congratulations. Just move over some. Move over those black X's. Black X's. Okay, wonderful. That's right.
Thank you, Dave Yoho and Associates, for putting all this together, and thank you for all those, for all the many things you've done for gathering everybody here together. And I also want to thank you for loving an unloved industry. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. You know, looking around the room today, I'm kind of in awe because I know, or I've heard, or I've seen of a lot of your accomplishments, your companies and your names and stuff. And sometimes I wonder if I belong in this room. I kind of feel like a freshman at a senior prom or something. I'm just happy to be here, you know. So I just want you to know that in business, that for us, the toughest challenge has been our employees. And I wanted to make note that one time there was a man who was shipwrecked, He was on a desert island, and many years he was there all by himself. And as the Coast Guard helicopter finally rescued him and they lifted him off the island, the pilot looked at the man and said, "Sir, there's 3 large huts on this island that you built." And the guy said, "Sure." He said, "What are they for?" He said, "Well, the first one was where I lived. Everybody has to have a house. Everybody has to have a home." And he said, "I get that. What's the second one for?" He said, "Well, that's where I work. Everybody has to have a job, a place to go where they feel important." "Okay, well, what's the third one for?" He said, "Well, that's where I used to work." It's tough being a boss. It's tough being an owner. It's tough keeping people happy. In 1992, our first year in business, we were growing, and I knew I couldn't do it alone. I was going to need salespeople, installers, marketers, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't know where I was going to get them. Most of the people that I'd worked with in the past at other companies, I saw the negativity, the strife that was stirring up, the gossip and all that. I just didn't want to work with those kind of people. So I did what I always do when I don't know what to do. I asked God to help me. I said, "Bring me people that'll help me build my company and take it to a level that I can't do it myself." Sitting right back there is Cliff, Mike, Bob, Dave Bell. These 4 guys right here have got over 100 years with me, the 4 of them. I've only been open 28 years, so you can figure that out. They came early. Early on, they helped me get to where I was going to go. So I truly mean it when I look at you guys and say, I couldn't have done it without you. I don't know what you would consider yourself lucky, but I'm the luckiest man in the world to have Gene Augustine for a dad. Here he sits, when we were 8, 10 years old, we'd run leads together, and I'd watch him do the pitch on the aluminum siding and sit in the living room and just have to go through it. And I was amazed that you could go in someone's house and sell them and, do what he did. And I was raised through the eyes of a commission salesman. Whether the job got approved or whether the people canceled or however many squares it took, that meant whether or not I got football cleats. That meant whether or not there was lunch money the next morning on the dresser, because we lived through the eyes of commissioned salespeople. So it was in the 30 years when I was raised and my dad was going from town to town and company to company, I always saw it through the eyes of a salesperson. So when I opened Paramount Builders, I wanted to open a company that was the company that he always looked for, that fair, decent, honest, paid everybody, didn't gyp anybody. And at the end of the day, I wanted him to be proud. So every day, I wake up, he's almost 80 now, and I thank God that he's still with me and that I got the luxury, like not a lot of people, of being able to pick up the phone every day and have a conversation with my dad and talk anything about home improvements. So, I'd like to tell you, he's told me a million things in life. Things like, "Did you sell anything?" "No, it's 40 degrees outside, rainy." He said, "Yeah, the only weather that matters is whether you got a contract tomorrow." "Selling's like shaving. Do it every day or you're a bum." On and on and on, line after line. I was raised with a dad that kept me in line, kept my head straight. I appreciate that. We're a long ways from 1977 when we'd sit on that back porch in Orlando talking about if we were in charge and we could do it our way. So, Dad, stand up. Just want to tell you, we made it. We made it. And I can't go so far without thanking my wife, who, if there was a Hall of Fame for wives, and if there was a Legends Award for wives, the 28 years Karen has put up with me and all my shenanigans, she should be immortalized in gold. Thank you, and I appreciate all the votes.